Domo, what is up everybody? Welcome back to this week's Anime Lounge for a anime versus manga comparison for Jujutsu Kaisen episode 5. I am your host, official Jujutsu Kaisen manga translator Steady, or should I say Kento Nanami. For those of you that, maybe are only familiar with the anime, we haven't been introduced to him yet in the series, but the manga readers will know what's up. And of course, I've got the little blade right here. I did this for my manga lounge, weekly manga lounge, since Halloween was nearby. I know this one's a little bit late, but hey, I figured why not? It's makes things fun. Of course, we are here, like I said before, for episode 5. Disclaimer, as always, for those of you that watch only the anime, please be advised that I will be talking a little bit here and there about the manga as well. I won't be going into like too many details or anything like that, but I definitely do speak with the knowledge of the manga in my head as well. So, but hey, let's get into it for the manga versus anime comparison, Jujutsu Kaisen episode 5. Let's do it. All right. So, or maybe I should do a domain expansion. I guess the Sukuna, we haven't been introduced to the Gojo domain expansion yet. But yeah, we start off the episode with a little clip of kind of the last scene of last week's episode with Sukuna realizing that Yuji is having a little bit of trouble taking over the body again. So it's got this big old grin on his face, and I like how they kind of have this little moment here as it kind of flashes outside to Fushiguro. And I like the music that's going on here too. Of course, I don't talk enough about the actually I don't think a lot of people talk enough about kind of the music and the sound design and stuff. Kind of looking at the facility here, and then boom, we get this cool effect with this kind of like distortion and discoloration, kind of the inverted colors. And then actually I don't know if it's inverted colors, but you know what I mean, the kind of the distorted colors. I will say that I would have liked a little bit more of a kind of a distressed face from Fushiguro. I remember this scene very, very distinctly in the manga for the face that he gives in the manga. The face in the manga was the eyes, you could just feel like the distress. He recognizes that something very, very strong is behind him. And indeed, although I do like the way that they kind of portray this scene here with Sukuna, you see Fushiguro, and then you see the classic, walk out from behind him. It's kind of one of those classic I'm kind of behind you kind of reveal. But I did like the way that they did that, and the music that's kind of going on in the background right now, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the songs from the trailers as well. So very cool stuff as we see Sukuna here, calling the shots. Of course, a very, for as it's funny because as manga readers, we're so used to this scene and stuff, and we're so used to the stuff that goes on. But I imagine as first time anime watchers, anime only watchers will see this scene and be like, what? But of course, and then he swallows up the finger as well. And then we get a little bit of a kind of a title screen here with kind of the cogs, and then Fearsome Moon Part 2. And this is episode 5, right? And then, very cool, we see Tsumiki here. This is Fushiguro's sister. I think they mention the fact that it's the sister in the episode. I hope I'm not spoiling anything, but if you don't know, this is the sister. And I think kind of eagle-eyed fans will notice the marks on her head actually look very similar to the mark that Sukuna has on his head, although for now that we have it, you know, in anime form and in color, Sukuna is black, whereas Tsumiki's is red, and of course a lot more elaborate, a lot more lines, kind of like curse markings. It's probably more kind of the appropriate interpretation. Fushiguro kind of talking about how, you know, this Tsumiki girl, the sister, is just one of the, you know, the kindest people in the world, and the last person that should have ever been kind of put under this curse. It seems like that they're under this state of comatose, and of course manga readers, you know, will have been given a little bit more of a background story, but even in the manga it's still very, very much a mystery. So it's cool to kind of go back to this and kind of revisit when we first see Tsumiki and maybe kind of the possible hints. But then Fushiguro kind of summons Nue here, and this is very similar to in the manga. There's the panel as well where he says, "It's not a matter of if I can, I will," and then boom. In the manga it seemed a lot more kind of, there was like effect going on, but whatever. I love Sukuna, you know, obviously his cockiness, he as far as he's concerned, Fushiguro is absolutely nothing, right? Although his opinion of him perhaps changes later on in the episode, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more as well. But I obviously love the cinematography that they have going on here, and this is the advantage of anime. You know, manga has its way of, you know, interpreting motion and fights and things like that too, which is, you know, can be very, very effective as well. But anime also obviously has its kind of advantages as well, right? Like this, for example, this kind of pulled back, like kind of distorted fisheye almost kind of view of, you know, Sukuna, boom, and then we see almost kind of like the raindrops stop, slow down kind of deal. So very cool effect. But Fushiguro quick to summon Serpent. It's like something like that, right? Yeah, there we go. And this is a lot more dynamic than it was represented in the manga, for sure. In the manga, it seemed, I mean, it's hard to tell, but it seemed like it was maybe 30 feet off the ground or something like that, if even. But in here, it's like, I like the effect how they have the serpent go all the way up into the sky almost here. Then Nue comes in, and he has the electric effect. It's a little bit harder to tell in the manga what the sparks kind of are, but in the anime it's very, very clear that Nue has this kind of electric effect to it, right? Which is very much in line with the lore of Nue. Nue, by the way, is kind of a Japanese chimera in folklore. Has the face of a monkey, the body of kind of a tiger, tail of a snake, the kind of, you know, chimera, but elementally speaking, it is oftentimes associated with kind of electricity. If maybe perhaps you've played Neo, the video games Neo, for example, you'll be very aware of what Nue is. But in Jujutsu Kaisen, they've taken kind of this more bird like form, although the face kind of seems to have a little bit of kind of a monkeyish kind of face to it. But then Sukuna makes quick work of Serpent here, and oh, how short-lived we knew Great Serpent. You know, even in the manga, you know, just kind of, but here it's cool because they have this effect. I don't know if cool is the right word, but we see it kind of getting caught up here, and then all of a sudden, welcome to Dragon Ball Z. You know, we're you know, for first time fans, you kind of watching this and you're like, whoa, what's going on? Like, how is Fushiguro okay? You know, but they do later on kind of reinforce the idea of using cursed energy to protect oneself and things like that as well. So you're completely in line if you're kind of confused as to how Fushiguro is alive after being pummeled like this. But very cool, you know, we even get kind of the the drawn out scene of I don't know, the pulled out scene, I guess, of Fushiguro just kind of flying through the sky through the rain, and then, you know, Sukuna coming in with punches, and even in the manga as well, there's that frame where we see this kind of, you know, like the boom as Fushiguro is getting hit into the building. And I do very much like this effect here of Fushiguro. You know, you can see that there is definitely this kind of relationship here with Nue, that they've been through a lot. And that Nue is very much, you know, on his last breath, but still protecting their master. But I like the effect that they have here with kind of like these streaks of black, kind of showing that it's perhaps running out of energy a little bit. And sure enough, Fushiguro deactivates it. Then we get another look at Tsumiki again, and this is a very iconic scene in the manga, and very much the same as it was represented in the manga, so I like that they kept it as is. These are the kind of iconic scenes where you really hope that they don't go too creative on, you know, take too many creative liberties on. But in the anime, they have this cool little effect here of how it kind of switches to like this dark background, obviously representing the turmoil that is going on with Tsumiki right now. And then we get another look, this time is still a little bit more, even more kind of pulled out here. Very interesting composition here, very cool. Obviously the situation is very dire, you know, of Tsumiki and Comatose here, but this is a very iconic scene in the manga as well, of kind of just on her back and the hair kind of, you know, in that kind of spider web kind of effect with all these flowers on. I don't think they're spider lilies, but maybe just regular lilies. Should have probably researched that a little bit more. Oops, sorry. But anyways, then this is kind of, you know, the whole time this is Fushiguro talking to himself. You know, we as we kind of move through the series, we come to find out a lot more about Fushiguro and what his kind of determination and stuff means, and perhaps a little bit of recklessness and a little bit of naivete, so to speak. So we see Fushiguro definitely grow as a character a lot in the very limited amount of chapters that we have so far. You know, but then we get this cool effect with the kind of the green kind of representing the cursed energy. This was the same kind of green effect that we saw with Nobara, but when we saw Itadori use his, it was kind of a red effect, right? So perhaps it is meant to kind of differentiate a little bit that Yuji's kind of cursed energy is perhaps something a little bit more malicious, you know, especially with the fact that he is being possessed by Sukuna, or maybe it's not really meant to be read into too much. I don't know, because in the manga, it's definitely, it always kind of seems like the same anyways, because there's no color, so you can't really tell. Yeah. I'm gonna put this down before I break my monitor, because it's come multiple times to crashing into my monitor, so I'm gonna leave it. How about I put it there? Okay, good. But anyways, and then Fushiguro is kind of seems to be going to be using this kind of ultimate move almost, it seems. He starts this incantation which very much catches the attention of Sukuna. Now this is one of the very big mysteries of Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm not going to spoil anything, but we find out a lot more about Fushiguro's powers in the manga, and very recently, in fact, almost, you know, like 2 years after this scene premiered in the manga. But it's clear that Sukuna has taken now an interest to Fushiguro after seeing a little bit more about his powers. You know, Fushiguro is kind of, he's able to manipulate shadows and use it as a medium to summon these Shikigami or familiars, right? So Sukuna has clearly taken an interest in Fushiguro, and if you want to find out a lot more, I do have an in-depth kind of a theories video on why Sukuna is so interested in Fushiguro, based on the information that we have now, kind of in the recent chapters. So take a look at that if you're interested. But here we'll kind of keep it at that. And then I love, you know, Sukuna kind of getting hyped up, and he's like, oh, okay, I see you. That's basically what he's saying. And then this face, I love it. His kind of like, show me what you got, Fushiguro. It's a very iconic scene in the manga as well, that panel. Like I remember it very, very vividly. So I like how they had, you know, kind of the exaggerated mouth and stuff. So I love that they kind of kept this true as well. And then Fushiguro starts to say the incantation with this. This is in the manga, anyways. I don't watch the anime with the subtitles, so I don't know what they said. But in the manga, we translate it as with this treasure I summon 8 handles, and then it kind of cuts off. So this was very much one of the first kind of big mysteries of the series, is what is this move that he was about to use. So a very cool moment. And of course, as manga readers, we look back on this moment now and we're like, oh man, I remember, you know, thinking what that was all about. And then of course, Fushiguro and his kind of realization here. And then we see Yuji finally able to take the body back. But alas, you know, with this beautiful smile, very iconic again in the manga. But yeah, very just hits you right here, you know. This is one of those scenes. You don't need me to get too deep into it. And then thud. Yeah. But then we kind of move back to big old bright Tokyo. I like these kind of, you know, these kind of little scenes showing, you know, the city and stuff, and especially after a couple episodes of all this darkness and rain and all that, it's kind of nice to have this give you a little bit of a jolt of energy. But we are quickly introduced here to Geto. So of course I'm not going to get into too much detail on what his deal is, but he's also being accompanied by 3 obviously not humans special grade curse spirits. Names are Jogo, the volcano head guy, and Hanami is the one with the kind of horns for the eyes, or they're branches technically. I don't know if technically they're branches, but they look like branches. And then we have kind of a little squid guy on the side here, which I'm not gonna say the name, because the name is something that we actually didn't get revealed for quite a while in the manga, so I'll keep it as is, but you can look it up and probably find it just as quick if you really want to know. I absolutely love the voice acting that they have going on here too, especially with Geto. So for those of you that don't know, Geto is actually played by someone called Takahiro Sakurai, who is most famous recently for his portrayal of Giyu Tomioka in Demon Slayer. And for those JoJo fans out there, he was Rohan Kishibe. And for the Bleach fans out there, he was Izuru Kira. So a very big name in the world of voice acting, and I think he fits the role of Geto absolutely perfect. You know, very kind of that kind of calm tone, but you can tell that he can probably go a little bit crazy if he wants to. And of course, from the anime here, it's no secret that we're made to, you know, that he is an antagonist. So I think Sakurai-san is doing a very good job here. And then for Jogo, the volcano head guy, it's played by Shigeru Chiba, who is famous for playing Buggy in One Piece. And also another person who was in Demon Slayer, he played Jigoro. And for the Yu Yu Hakusho fans out there, he is Kuwabara. So very cool throwback. And I'm sure for Akutami Sensei, the mangaka for Jujutsu Kaisen, they must be absolutely so happy, because they're a huge Togashi Sensei fan. So having Chiba-san in Jujutsu Kaisen, they must be just absolutely enthralled. And then Hanami is, although Hanami isn't really speaking Japanese quite yet, he's speaking kind of curse tongue, but is played by Atsuko Tanaka, who is famous for playing Conan in Naruto. And although I'm not too familiar with the series, apparently playing Caster from Fate Stay Night, as well as Tsubaki Amamiya from God Eater. So some notable roles for Atsuko Tanaka. So yeah, I'm telling you, it's the cast that they just have for this anime is just, it's like an all-star. Like, they've got just big names, but not just big names for the sake of big names. Like, they really fit the roles, and not once yet have I seen a role that kind of makes me like, I don't know about that voice, especially as the translator. You know, I have certain kind of set voices in my head as I'm translating, so I'm quite surprised actually that I haven't run into a voice yet where it's kind of like, I don't know about that one. So very cool. But as they're kind of heading to the cafe here, and you know, the classic, this is also very iconic, a lot of iconic, hear me saying iconic this episode, but Geto saying yes, just one, as we have Jogo here. And I love the side eye, because I remember that from the manga as well. Jogo kind of this like this stupid human kind of look on his face, as Hanami in the background, as well as Squid Guy in the background as well. Squidward, we'll call him Squidward for now. So very cool. You know, again, it's also a little bit of a tutorial as well, showing that regular people can't see these cursed spirits, right? But then we flash back to kind of the morgue area of Tokyo Jujutsu High, and then we have Gojo being told the situation with Yuji, and this again is kind of a very important point of why were the 3 first years there in the first place, as Gojo is kind of explaining. You know, it was 5 unconfirmed hostages or people left behind. We didn't even know if they're dead or alive. To throw the 3 first years in there with a potential special grade cursed spirit, it's obviously something wrong here, right? So this is also kind of opening up the world a little bit, showing us that there are, you know, people higher ups that they have to sort of answer to. Although as the series goes on, we kind of do, we're explained that Gojo has a certain role in the Jujutsu Kaisen world where people don't really mess with him, in A, because he's extremely strong, and B, because of kind of his lineage as well, but really because he's extremely strong. But he's able to pull a lot of strings as well, which is why he was able to get that stay of execution for Itadori, for example. But you know, his kind of the line about maybe how about I just go up there and just kill them all, which he probably very well could do. But then we are introduced to Shoko Ieri, who is the doctor for Tokyo Jujutsu High. And of course, I don't want to go into too much detail because there's a lot about Shoko which hasn't been revealed yet in the anime, but we know a lot more details about her and how important she really is. But she is played by someone called Aya Endo, who perhaps their most famous role is Sumire Kake from Boruto, or Cheryl Gnome in Macross F, as well as Eclair in Fairy Tail the movie. So I'll admit I'm not very familiar with this person. However, they've obviously got more than a few credentials, and they're perfect for Shoko. Shoko kind of has that personality, a little bit cocky, a little bit, a little bit selfish perhaps, and she very enjoyable personality, I suppose. Maybe not a good personality, so to speak, but and of course I like this little banter. Jujutsu Kaisen is always so excellent with the banter and kind of the comedic moments, and it's good because and I always talk about this in my manga lounges as well, is you have to kind of have these little moments of comedy, right, or else the subject matter does become it becomes a drag to read or to watch. It becomes a little bit too much anxiety ridden, so having these kind of moments to lighten up the mood a bit is always very well timed with Akutami Sensei, I would say, and genuinely funny. Sometimes you have these kind of moments of comedy which are, and as much as I hate the word, because for the lack of a better word, kind of cringe a little bit, where you're kind of, it's really not that funny. But with Jujutsu Kaisen, it's like genuinely funny, and I'm not just saying that because I'm the translator, but Ijichi obviously in need of a little bit more compassion here. But then we're shown Itadori here. It's all the more real in anime form when kind of lack of color in his face and even the lips, and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, he's dead. Like even almost like his hair seems to kind of have a lack of color as well. I don't know if maybe but it seems like it anyways. I don't know, like that wouldn't really happen, right? With dead bodies, do they lose like hair color? Maybe. But then we kind of flash over to Fushiguro as well as Nobara here, and they're kind of talking about the elephant in the room. Yeah, and I really love this moment here because it kind of gives us a little bit of a look into both Nobara and Fushiguro's character here. Nobara, obviously, she's very confident, but she has her vulnerabilities as well, and she has her sort of sensitivities and compassion as well. She says these kind of things like, I don't care, I only met this guy 2 weeks ago, like why would I care? But we see this this kind of grimace from the side of Nobara, which again was a scene that was I very vividly remember in the manga, and I love this from the compassion from Nobara, but I love Fushiguro just as much for really not saying anything, not really delving any deeper, being like, hey, are you okay, or this and that, just letting it be. Just trusting Nobara to just kind of let her deal with it. But then he kind of changes the subject a little bit, kind of saying like, oh, it's kind of hot out here, eh? Because I don't think Nobara would really want like a super friendly year or anything like that, right? Maybe, a friendly year is always nice, but she certainly wouldn't want Fushiguro to be like, are you gonna be okay, or like that. She's not that kind of girl, as she says herself. But yeah, it's kind of a interesting moment here between the two. But then we are quickly introduced to Maki Zenin, one of the second years of Tokyo Jutsu High, and of course the character design is very much the same, although I think a lot of people were kind of surprised with the green hair. Not like it's bad or anything like that, it's just kind of like, oh, she has green hair, because like even in, I think, kind of the few color depictions of Maki we've seen in the anime, in the manga, I mean, like with like a color page or two, and we've also seen her from like volume 0. A lot of readers thought that she had black hair, and she was kind of depicted that way, but not to say that the anime can't do something different. And it looks cool, actually, if I admit. It's just going to take a little bit of time getting used to, I guess. But then we have Panda and Toge, of course, such an awesome combo there. Kind of like, hey, what are you doing, Maki? Don't you know? And I love this face from Maki. You know, kind of, oh, why didn't you tell me sooner? Now I look like some sort of heartless, cold demon. And then Panda, obviously, with the, well, you kind of are, you know. And then the following kind of few panels are the way that they're introduced with their kind of names in the manga. We see Maki kind of talking to herself like, well, is it really kindness to be like this and that? And then we have Toge, you know, and this is all while Fushiguro's kind of introducing them to Nobara. And Toge, Inumaki is, you know, only speaks in rice ball ingredients. And Panda kind of talking to himself like, but she's really nice when she's around Yuta. Which is the fourth second year, heavily featured from volume 0. But cool, again, this is just the way that they were introduced in the manga as well, so I like how they kept it as that. As Fushiguro kind of goes on to explain about Yuta and how he's the only one that he can really kind of respect. I also do like how Nobara kind of interjects here by saying like, hey, are you really just going to pass off the panda there just as panda and not explain any further? I like that. But then Maki and them are kind of have approached Fushiguro and Nobara to see if they want to join in on the Kyoto School Goodwill event. So this is the first time we've kind of been mentioned about the Kyoto School. So in addition to Tokyo Jujutsu High, there is a Kyoto Jujutsu High, which hopefully, you know, as season 1 goes along, we'll see more of and perhaps get into what they call the Goodwill event arc. But then when Nobara hears Kyoto, you see this the face here kind of confused, and then you see these little triangle things in the background. Those are called yatsuhashi. They're kind of a Kyoto delicacy, kind of typically like a souvenir sweet. They're basically like mochi triangles, just kind of in that form, but also heavily with like cinnamon, which is interesting because cinnamon is typically not a very common spice, I would say, in Japanese cuisine. If it's, you very, very seldom see it. A lot of Japanese people aren't really acquainted with cinnamon as much, and I've run into a lot of Japanese people who don't really like it either. Maybe that's just not Japanese people. It's cinnamon obviously has a very distinct taste, right? But yatsuhashi, it's also in this kind of raw form, this kind of gluttonous mochi form, as well as kind of a baked form where it almost kind of looks like bamboo shoots, like kind of halved, kind of, how do you describe it? But yeah, should have a picture right here showing it. But kind of a cool little nod to Yatsuhashi in Kyoto there. But then she kind of quickly moves on to how she's very strong at Super Smash Bros, the Wii version, and she talks about Meteor Smash, which for the Smash Bros fans out there will know what she's talking about. So of course, again, a little cool kind of comedic moment there. But then we are introduced to we're shown this little panel of Principal Yaga, as well as Principal Gakuganji. So he's the counterpart for Kyoto School to Masamichi, and this was very similar to the manga as well, but they're kind of going on to explain that this Goodwill event arc is a 2-day event, that the first day that each principal kind of chooses what they want to do for either day, but it always ends up becoming an individual event and a team event. But yeah, I won't get into too much detail about that. But Maki and them want the first years here to get into it, as Panda's kind of doing his little ha 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 in the background. And they do also kind of go on to explain with the bikini girls here, talking about how the different seasons how there is kind of an influx of curses depending on the season. So what they're kind of showing here is typical like Japanese, especially for like April and stuff. The year in Japan, kind of whether it be work or school and stuff, starts in April. So that's why they're kind of talking about a change in environment for April as being a big stressor, and then May being a stressor in terms of kind of the and after effect of that as well. And but yeah, just kind of it's kind of going on to explain this is important because it's, you know, explaining how curses do fluctuate depending on like the stress and stuff, right? As Gojo kind of explained, saying that population density and stress and negative energy is what gives birth to curses, right? So depending on the time of the year and stuff, perhaps that could be, you know, like maybe Christmas, you know, like a lot of people, well, not everyone. You know what, I'm gonna stop right there before Christmas is a good time for a lot of people, and then it's also a very sad time for a lot of people, I guess. So I guess we'll keep it at that. But yeah, anyways, Nobara and Fushiguro agree, saying that they'll put up with the training. But then we move over to the cafe again, and then of course Jogo kind of getting a little bit heated, pun intended. And then we have Geto explaining that there are two circumstances that need to be met. And this is extremely important, and as where we are in the manga, we've kind of, you know, we always have to kind of remind ourselves of these two circumstances of Gojo. Basically, you know, we haven't seen too much from Gojo yet, but we know that he's extremely strong. He's considered kind of the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer. So kind of putting him out of commission, so to speak. And then having to get Sukuna on the curses side, Yuji Itadori as well by default on their side is also a necessary condition. But then yeah, then as Geto kind of keeps on explaining here, and we got this creepy smile from him. I like how they kind of zoomed in on that. You know, talking about, but you know, Jogo saying, but isn't Itadori dead? And then Geto, you know, I wouldn't be too sure about that, as our final panel here shows Sukuna kind of saying, don't look up at me, brat, so perhaps all is not as it seems. And then yeah, so that's where episode 5 ends. Very cool episode, of course, not as action-packed, although, you know, the fight between Megumi and Sukuna was very cool. But there was a lot of kind of intrigue with new characters and kind of the world building. So a very cool episode as far as that's concerned. They did a great job, and the music in the background, the sound design. I always forget it's because I'm talking mostly based on kind of images that I'm looking at here, rather than actually watching the anime, the episode through with the music. But yeah, I remember watching this episode and being very, very intrigued by a lot of the music and the sound design in the background. And then we get this little extra with little kind of the Juju stroll, strolling with Juju, you know, with Panda. And I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but this is very much new. You know, it's we haven't gotten this particular little episode between the first years and Panda and his smell and all that. So this is cool. You know, always a treat to see these little extra scenes, and this final shot of Nobara and Maki kind of blushing like, oh, he smells like sunshine. I love that. But yeah, then we get our little preview for episode 6, which should be an absolute banger. Of course, manga readers will know what's coming up. But, you know, just kind of on the little preview shots here, we've got Jogo. It seems like he's coming in for some action. And Gojo, we see Gojo too. So maybe there's going to be something going on there. But then I love this little, we see Panda dashing. And then we see Nobara getting thrown around. So perhaps the training has already started. And but very cool. And it's called... Episode 6 is going to be called After the Rain, which is actually the title for chapter 10 So episode 6 actually took us through chapters, basically the last part of chapter 8, chapter 9, and chapter 10. So episode 6 will be kind of heading into chapter 11 territory. So very cool, very cool. And we're moving at a good pace here. But yeah, that was episode 5. Thanks so much for coming by, everyone. You know, it's been such a cool experience seeing the anime just come to life and this world come to life and these new characters and the voices. For so long, I've just had the voices in my head, and then I sound like a crazy person. The voices in my head. But yeah, but just seeing it come to life is so amazing. And of course, next week is going to be one of those episodes for sure. You'll be seeing it trending. Absolutely. So yeah, without further ado, thanks so much. I appreciate you guys coming by. Got my boy Nanami. Hopefully this character should be coming in. I would say probably around episode 8 or 9 maybe. So it won't be too much longer before we get introduced to the man himself. But hey, thanks so much for spreading that positive juju. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for liking, commenting, and sharing if you know people that might enjoy some Jujutsu Kaisen content. But hey, with that, you know how we do. Mata yoroshiku. Alright. See you next week.